Hey folks, and welcome to this podcast, Inside the Songs. It is my absolute pleasure today to be talking to the legend, Matthew K. Heafy. Thanks so much for finding the time to join me in your super busy schedule that I know you've got at the moment. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you very much. We just survived yet another hurricane. As you and I were talking off stream, it's really wasn't too bad in Orlando, thankfully, but other parts of Florida were hit pretty bad, but we were good. I slept through the whole thing, and here we are now.
Well, congratulations on getting a good night's sleep. Hey.
Yeah, thank you.
So this podcast is going out on Monday, the 28th of October, and I know it's going out on your live stream as well. And that's an important day for you and I because it's the release date of an EP that we've been working on together for some time in the background, in secret. Matt, why don't you tell us all about it? Tell us how that collaboration came to you and what you first thought of it when the opportunity was presented to you.
Absolutely. There was a day where my manager, Justin, who I've been working with since I was about 15 or so, he texted me. He's like, hey, there's some awesome people that are putting together new music inspired by Cult of the Lamb. And I've been super familiar with Cult of the Lamb, amazing game. And I talked to him. I was like, we have to do this. So when I learned more about the project, it was that you guys were taking songs from the game, you're taking songs of your own pieces and allowing really anybody to create anything on top, which is my favorite way to make things. Like I've been getting into compositional scoring a lot lately, and anytime I see something, anytime I see a movie, a game, a setting, a scenery, a TV series, if it doesn't have a sound, I know what it should sound like. So as soon as I heard these pieces of music that you all wrote, I was like, I know exactly what needs to happen on me. So the lyrics were effortlessly flowing out. I dug a little bit into the lore of the game and the characters, as I like to do, because I really like to paint the picture of the world that is supposed to be there. I don't like it to just be non-related. And then with each character, I was able to dive in and make something creative, make something unique. And I can't wait for the world to hear this because it's just truly amazing.
Yeah. So let's approach this for a second from a non-gamer's perspective. So let's say people are coming to this record from people that don't know the game Cult of the Lamb. Let's just say they're approaching it, as a straight fan of metal music and hard rock music. Tell us about the lore of the game and what it was that you were interpreting and therefore trying to extract in order to present, stuff in your lyrics.
I love that in the lore of the game, it goes into the game's own gods, deities, monsters, imperfect creatures, perfect creatures. Because you can find that's something I've always used as source material for even my writings, like with Trivium, us going into Greek mythology. I found Greek mythology, so it's been a fantastic place to go. And what I've always loved about Greek mythology, Japanese Shinto religion, that's all the tattoos I have on my body. That's what my mom's practicing religion is. And that's the reverence of different spirits in nature. What I've always loved is it showed that, no, these gods weren't perfect. A lot of these gods were kind of bad, and they had these weird tendencies, like my back piece about Susanoo, the storm god battling the eight-headed serpent Yamato no Orochi, which already sounds like something out of the game, me just saying that.
Right.
It's about this god that he was approached by this farmer. The farmer said, I had to keep feeding my daughters to this eight-headed serpent. I have one daughter left, and there's one head left, and it's hungry. And the god was basically like, okay, I'll help you, but she has to marry me. So that's kind of screwed up. Like if it was a perfect God, he'd been like, of course, I will save them and I'll resurrect the rest of your daughters and all is going to be good. And I don't need nothing but your thanks. But this one's like, no, I want your daughter's hand in marriage. So the farmer's like, okay. And then Susanoo went to vanquish them. So when it comes down to that and being able to source material and learn about the lore within the game, I always find that that's much bigger. I love games that create their own lore, that create their own creatures. Hence why you guys decided to do this project, because it's so deep with these stories that go forward, and you can learn about yourself through these stories. You can apply them to stories of deities that you know, to people that you know, to experience you've had in your life. I think one would only need to look at the roster of artists on this record and go, yes, this is exactly what I want to see. I remember the excitement of like Rotor United, for example, back in 2005, 2006. You look at the names of the people on this record, you're like, yes, I have to listen to that. It's modern metal, modern metalcore, which is something that I've always been all about championing. So you guys were able to help further that mission.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying about, the gods, like the Greek gods and whatever, not being perfect. In fact, I've just been watching a really fun new series on Netflix called Chaos, which is a real like modern representation of the ancient Greek gods and Crete and King Minos and the Minotaur and all this stuff. And it's exactly that, it's this real imperfect relationship. Yeah. Chaos with a K.
Yeah, anytime there's chaos, because my cheesy gamer moniker, I was like, oh yeah, and I get to write about chaos in Cult of the Lamb as well. It always makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, and of course, Chaos was the period before the most well-known Olympians, right? It was the ancestors, if you like, of Zeus and all of that. Okay, so tell me about how you have to adjust your kind of writing style for stuff that you do for Trivium or other just straight music projects versus what you've had to do with this Cult of the Lamb collaboration or other video game style collaborations? What's the difference in your process?
With Trivium and Ibaraki, my Japanese band, I can't write during writing time. I can't say, all right, I'm going to write now. It usually warrants results that I'm not happy with. We've done that a couple times in our history. I'm not saying I'm unhappy with these records. Like, these records, I do love them very much so, but they're maybe on my lower favorites because of the constraints we put on them. With the Crusade, Vengeance Falls, and Silence of the Snow, those were each records where we put constraints on ourselves, or we had the people that were leading the ship for those records that put constraints like, hey, let's just stay in this area of Trivium. Let's just do this. Let's stay away from anything over here. Let's not do vocal pre-production. All these little rules that were kind of set, whether by myself or the band or the producers that were involved with. And I find that the absolute best stuff we've ever done, Ascendancy and Wave, Shogun, the last three records, Ember to Inferno, are ones that we had no rules whatsoever. We didn't go into it saying, we're going to do this, this, or this. Maybe there was something like, hey, let's play in this tuning for this song. But the rest would be like, whatever comes out is right. And whatever we craft this to is correct. So Trivium and Ibaraki cannot be written during writing time. They need to be lightning in a bottle that's captured. However, when it comes into scoring, which some scoring games is something I've always wanted to do since I was 11 years old and played the first Doom. I knew I wanted to make music like that. I didn't even know that was MIDI metal music.
I love that soundtrack,
yeah,
the
so
original
that was
Doom soundtrack. So
yeah,
good.
that was my first introduction. And then as I trace the roots, I look at all these games that I loved. All the games I loved had incredible scores. All the Final Fantasy games, specifically 4, 6, 7, 9. I loved the music. Chrono Trigger, I loved the music. Actually, our song Ashes on Ember to Inferno is lightly inspired, not melodically whatsoever, but me playing Chrono Trigger and going to that world where you're in the star realm and able to walk this path to the different areas. That was what I wanted to make. I wanted to make this music box chimey thing that sounded like it was in infinite random space. So it's always been a huge inspiration to me to want to do that. Trivium's done collabs, or we've had our songs licensed into things, which is always cool. I'm always happy to have that. But my goal has always been to make full scores for games. And thankfully, I've been able to do a couple full scores. Did a full Brazilian score for my first game. That they were actually approached me. It was my friend from Infinity Ward. He's like, hey, do you want to score my game? Yes. Can you make Brazilian music? Yes.
Sure.
And I had to learn how to make Brazilian music because I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but I wanted to do it so badly. So I learned how to do it. Did that. Was able to do a metal score and a modern metal score with like industrial tones on it from the game. Both these are unreleased so far. Then a couple collabs with like Horizon, with Remnant 2, things like that, the Doom events, ESO stuff. And right now I'm scoring my first film, which I'm incredibly excited about, Deathgasm 2, and making a game called Kunoichi with one of my friends. He was on the first Halo game team, and he's the lead writer for the ARC TV show. So when it comes time for those things, I can see it. I know what it should sound like. And what was really cool for me is like I've been studying all of Hans Zimmer's like interviews, master classes, same with Danny Elfman, studying the music of those two, and Ludwig Göransson, Henry Jackman, James Newton Howard, just nonstop studying all these composers that I've grown up loving. And one of the things I picked up on a Hans Zimmer piece in masterclass, he was saying he would go on film sets and talk to every single person there, what they do. And I decided to take, and maybe he was implying this, but I maybe took this another step further. So I was able to visit Deathgasm 2 to act in a scene where I get killed. And I was asking every actor, like, hey, what's your motivation here? Where's your character at? What are they feeling in this moment? I was able to be in these settings and in these scenes that have no sound. And I knew exactly what sounds they should be. So I came home and just kept scoring more and more stuff. When it comes time for making music for other things, like with this project, with the Cult of the Lamb music, I was so inspired by being able to just look at the visuals, hear the music, that everything was pretty instantaneous, which is awesome. I was able to and I don't think that at times, sometimes people think in the work world, things should take X amount of time to mean quality. I really don't. I think that sometimes there's going to be Black Sabbath Paranoid moments where you're like, all right, we need one more song. And then in 15 minutes, they wrote Paranoid, one of the biggest songs they've ever had. And that happens sometimes. So with this project, it was really like that. I was able to listen to the music, read some lore, and go, okay, I know exactly what this vocal melody should sound like. I know exactly what should plug in here. And I think that songwriting ability is something that you can practice in all the things that you do. Like, just like everything else, the more songs you write, the better you're going to get at writing songs if you're writing them correctly. And correctly is an arbitrary phrase. It could be, your interpretation correct. I've been really, really happy to be able to do this. I've been really happy to be able to look at something or hear the concept of something and go from there and create something and paint something new.
Yeah. There are some, I think, some really good takeaway points to kind of draw out of everything that you've just shared there. And one of the biggest things for me, as a composer as well, I write music as you do for myself, if you like. In your case, it's Trivium and Ibaraki and that kind of stuff, which is your no rules. I'm writing whatever comes out, whatever has inspired me. And then there's the stuff where I'm writing for somebody or for something, for a job, and it's okay, here there are some rules, and I need to be able to interpret that. And I need, when I'm teaching, I talk about, you need like a toolbox. You need to have things that you can draw out in order to serve specific purposes. So, in this case, it might be you need the ability to interpret the characters and turn them into a lyric, or it might be, okay, that there's a harmonic guideline there, and I need to be able to figure out what melodically is going to fit with that. But there are all sorts of different ways of approaching jobs. And when people say to me, I don't work like that, or that's not how I write, that always makes me cringe a little bit, because I'm like, I feel like you're limiting yourself there, because if you're fixated on this is how I work, you're always going to be waiting for that lightning bolt moment. You're never going to be able to just sit down and say, okay, I've got to do this job today. I've got to work because it's a job. I think that's a really, really important lesson for people to try and learn from.
It is massively. And like you said, when you're making music for someone else's vision, like one of the big things that every masterclass I've listened to, Elfman, Zimmer, when you're making like a film score, for example, or score for a game, it is now you as a composer's job to interpret what the director hears. So it's no longer about like, hey, this is the kind of music I want to make. It's the kind of music that they hear for the film. Like with Deathgasm 2, I remember Jason and we both had lots of ideas, and I'd come up with some stuff that was maybe too Zimmer for what Deathgasm 2 should be. So we'd have to pull that back and maybe pull that more to like a Clint Mansell direction. And I'm not trying to sound like these people. I don't listen to the song and say, I'm going to make a song that sounds like Imagine the Fire. But it's listening to everything, interpreting my way, and making it differently. And yes, to your point, you never know what creative flow might warrant a different example. For me, like I'm a guitar player first. So sometimes when I first started scoring for games, when I was doing this one game that things ended up pivoting, and then we made our own game, I started on guitar, and then I put symphonics on afterwards, and I found that the guitar riffs I would do for Trivium style were too much, and they'd conflict with the strings and the brass. And then I learned to do completely from piano roll first. Then I went to making it on piano and then translating it out to instruments. And now I'm back to guitar again, orchestrating it like that with what I learned about composing. So yeah, you got to try everything to warrant the correct results. Maybe it is that, with Trivium and Baraki, I have that freedom of just making whatever I want, and that creates the lightning bolt effect. But when it comes down to times like this, you're like, hey, this is what we're doing. Matt, we need you to do this and this and this. Here's the deadline. Go. And I find that sometimes that creates other cool creative examples or creative results I wouldn't have had before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm interested to find out what you first thought or felt when I delivered. So the first song that you worked on was Chaos, which is the second track on this 6-track EP. And so the songs that you co-wrote were track 2, Chaos, track 4, Pestilence, and the final track 6, Death. And you actually worked on them in that order as well. So when I delivered that first song to you in the form that it was in, what was your initial feeling? Did you feel the connection with the OST, or did it feel like a real sort of far remove? What was your reaction?
For me, whenever I hear something, if let's say I'm singing on something, and if I start hearing vocal melodies or vocal patterns or lyrics or vocal phrases with a screamed or sung, instantly I know it's a song that I love. And so I heard these things right away, and instantly I heard the hooks in my head, and I said, I know exactly what to sing here and here. I know exactly the order. And the only reason why I knew exactly is because I've been able to put in the time of practicing these things. So it came out rather effortlessly, which is a testament to the songs, which is a testament to the way that it was executed. And I find that when that true inspiration sparks on a collaboration like this, then it's magic. So I was very, very excited to hear this. I was like, this is exactly what I'll be singing over. This is exactly what I want to play. I love the odd meter. I love the odd meter in the guitar parts. It reminded me of one of my favorite bands of all time that a lot of people don't really know about, is a band called Martyr, Martyr. They have an album called Warp Zone. They're out of French Canada, and that album changed my life. If I didn't get in that album, Ascendancy wouldn't sound the way it sounds. Granted, Warp Zone is much more tech than Ascendancy, although Ascendancy is pretty tech too. But hearing those riffs reminded me of Warp Zone, so I was really, really excited about that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that record, so I'm definitely going to check it out.
Got to check it out. It's incredible.
Martyr.
It's like tech death jazz.
Wow.
And the guy, he can play any Friedman solo, any Alan Holdsworth solo. He's in Voivod now, lead guitar player of Voivod. His name's Daniel Mongrain. Yeah. It is unbelievable, like a life-changing record.
It's going on my list. And conversely, I'm just sort of thinking now back to the moment where you're delivering back your songs and your your stems back to me to mix. I've given you instrumentals. I've been working on these instrumentals, and that's kind of like my baby, my brainchild. And then I'm giving them to you and saying, here's a brief. Now you do your thing. And then I'm like sat back, fingers crossed, and just waiting with anticipation for those tracks to come back. And from my perspective, when you get something delivered back that's just like, oh my God, yeah, that absolutely like nails the brief. It just, that's a really special moment and a special feeling. So I'm really grateful for everything that you brought to this project, and for your deep understanding and feeling that you've imparted on this record. Because
thank you so much. Like I said, it's only because the music was great. It's only because it sounded great, and it made me excited. Something like that similar happened. I can use a good example of that, which this is a perfect example. But my buddy Nick Nocturnal, he was like, "Hey, check out this new song I wrote." And he sent it to me. That's all he was saying. Just, hey, check it out. And I heard it, and I said, "Nick, you got to let me sing on this." He's like, "This is already mixed and mastered. I'm releasing this in a couple months." I was like, "No, you got to let me sing on this. Like, just let me show you what I'm talking about." So it's the same thing that happened here, but luckily you came. You guys asked me if I'd be involved, and I was so excited to do that. And that's back to lightning in a bottle. You hear it, you know exactly what it should sound like. Same with Deathgasm 2. I love the first film so much, and I really felt a kinship to Brody, because I felt like the story of Brody's life was essentially me. I really felt like, hey, I was the only metal kid in my school, and I remember it being kind of rough like this. And reading the script for Deathgasm 2, I was like, damn, Brody's even more like me now, and I love this so much. So when there was a point, first I pitched Jason a crazy idea. I was like, hey, let's make the intro of this movie a musical. And he's like, that might be a little bit much, but I had this idea, like, Brody's kind of walking, and all of a sudden everyone starts singing. It turns into this grand musical. Maybe we'll do that for Deathgasm 3. I wrote this musical piece. It was a little bit much, but then he's like, hey, what about a theme song for Brody? Like, kind of rip it on him. And instantly I wrote this like really hilarious, awesome, like 80s kind of cheesy thing ripping on the main character. So it's like sometimes lightning in a bottle can also be within the constraints of, hey, this is meant to sound like this for this person's vision on this project. And I find that if the lightning happens there too, that's even better. It's more direct, like more of a direct hit.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, I want to pick up on something, because you're a busy guy, right? You're prepping hard right now for a certain fairly important tour that's coming up in 2025 with Bullet for My Valentine. Obviously, that is taking up a lot of time. You live stream basically every day, I think. And you're doing so much writing. So for people that don't know, what does like an average week look like for you? How do you balance your time between prepping for tour versus composing versus your live stream versus your family and BJJ and all of that?
Twin children.
Yeah, right.
I'll take you through. Like let's pretend today's Friday. Let's pretend it's a Monday. All right, so Monday I wake up 5:55, 6 a.m. quietly. I wake up. I start my vocal exercises right away. I go outside, start warming up my voice. As I start doing my physical therapy for my back, my foam rolling, stretching, then I start going to my steel mace work to kind of warm the body up, going to kettlebell lifting. Lately, I've been trying to put on size for jiu-jitsu, so it depends on what like lifting scheme I'm doing that day. So kettlebell stuff and steel mace stuff, wrapping up around 6:55, 7 o'clock. I stop the vocal exercises before the weights. So I'm basically doing the vocal exercise during the foam rolling and the stretching out. Wrap that up. The kids get up. We all have breakfast together as a family, get them prepped for school, take them to school. Then my wife and I go to hot yoga. So we do that together for an hour. We take a hot yoga class. She's actually training to become a yoga teacher right now. She's got her 200 hours. She has like 2 hours left, and she becomes a certified yoga teacher.
Wow.
So we do yoga together. I come home, I stream. My stream is basically me practicing, because I'd have to practice regardless. So it's me playing Trivium songs for Trivium fans around the world. I've been streaming on Twitch now for almost 8 years consistently, which means 5 days a week off tour, essentially 7 days a week on tour for the last 8 years straight. I love it. Wow. I'm obviously consistent with the things I love. I wrap that up. I go to jiu-jitsu class, generally show up around 12:15. Class starts at 12, but I stay from 12:15 to about 1:45. Do that, come home. My wife and I kind of chill here now, which is nice, because before I used to go back to stream, but we chill, get the kids. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, I take my kids to kids class, jiu-jitsu, where I'm one of the black belt teachers as well, who's one of the assistant coaches. They generally have another activity Tuesday, Thursdays. Band practices are about to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So we do that as a band. So that kind of carves away, like jiu-jitsu's out for those days. And if I have any specific projects, I'll work on it on the stream if the person I'm working with is okay with it being on the stream, like killing the VODs or whatever it may be. And that's a rough look at my day. That's kind of Monday through Friday. It's very regimented. I like it regimented. I have actually severely pulled back on a lot of things. I was doing even more than this a little while ago. I was streaming about 4 hours a day with more projects. But I've really been clearing the plate for this tour coming up, for the Trivium Bullet anniversary tour that's selling like absolute crazy. We sold like 7,000 tickets in Montreal in like 48 hours, which is absolutely insane. And then of course London, which is going to hit 20,000 very soon. But that's what I've been doing. And lately now it's Trivium. It's working on Kunoichi, the game that I'm working with my buddy Kendall Davis, and Deathgasm 2.
And how do you think, obviously you're a really disciplined guy, so how do you feel that discipline helps you with your creativity? Because some people may say, you know, I can only be creative when I feel like it. Where, you know, when clearly for you that's not the case, because when you've got so much to fit in, you know, when you've got to sit down and work, you've got to sit down and work. So, you know, how does your discipline impact on that, do you think?
I think it helps me massively. I think everyone's gonna be different. You know, my warm-up routine, for example, is completely different than anyone else in my bands. Like nowadays, it's 6 to 8 hours before the show. It's an hour straight of very specific warm-ups, 30 minutes of scales, and we're warming up different parts of the head, 20 minutes of head voice exercise, 10 minutes of full voice. Whereas Corey, he yells twice, like right before walking on stage, and he's good. And but he warms up and plays guitar all day. So everyone's a little bit different. And for me, again, the creativity with Ibaraki and Trivium, it has to show up randomly. So amidst all this structured stuff I'm doing, if a riff pops out and I love it, I'm going to make sure I capture that and save that for something. Although what we're talking about, although we're not formally working together with anything specific yet, we are setting these cool guidelines that, hey, the next time we work on something Trivium, we're only going to work on it together with the 4 of us in the hangar when we're all there together at the same time, which I think is amazing. It distills back to what it is to truly be a band. Like, hey, if we're going to make music for this band, we need to be there all together in our space of our band headquarters, and that's the time we're going to do it, and that's it. So I do like that constraint. I think that's a cool constraint for creativity. But for the other stuff I'm doing, like the scoring work, I find the time when I can, and I find that having this intense discipline and this schedule, I mean, it's not one that I self-imposed. My dad is a Marine. My mom's Japanese. Those are 2 heavily cultured, disciplined ways of life. I've always joked that I'm half Marine, half Japanese, and I think it's kind of accurate. And with working jujitsu and yoga and weightlifting and guitar and singing and all these other things at the same time, it's a lot. And I've talked to a lot of people like, that's too much for me. And that's fine. I feel like everyone's got their different balances. I've talked to some folks, my buddy Kendall, for example, with Kunoichi. He knows he's got things throughout the day that he wants to / needs to do, and he's going to do them whenever they happen. Me, I do them when I know I need to do them. And if I have to flip things around a little bit, I will. I've become more flexible than I used to be. That's the way I do it. I don't feel like it's essential for everyone. If someone has a good workflow with the way they do things, that's fine. You find what works for you.
Cool. So I want to get back to the game and back to the project for a moment. So you worked on 3 songs, Chaos, where you did vocals and you played all the guitar parts, and Pestilence and Death. Have you got a favorite? If I had to hold a gun to your head, what would be your favorite song and why?
That's a hard pick. I think the one with the hook, because it's just my brain also mushes a lot, dad brain. The I Crawl My Way Out one. I crawl my way out, I feel da is my crown. That's my favorite one. Is that Chaos? I think that's
Chaos. Yeah.
Yeah. First one, first favorite. That's that hook. I think that hook might have even been the first thing I came up with when I heard it. I knew right away. I was like, oh, I hear that. And I just recorded that. It's with the same words even too. Those were the first words I came up with. Sometimes words come out naturally. Sometimes they're yayas and lalas, and I plug things in. With this one, because the visuals, music was there, it was really easy to come with the words. I read some of the lore. I was like, okay, I know exactly what this character is going to be saying. I've been working a lot with character motifs lately, which is something that's, something that John Williams has been doing forever. Hans Zimmer does incredibly well. But when there's a character of a thing, this one, because I didn't do the music, not so much, but with like Deathgasm 2 or Kunoichi, when there's a character, I like to have a set motif for, hey, this character's about to enter the room, or this character's about to enter the room because you're hearing their musical cue come in.
Yeah, and as you say, that's a really well-used technique by all the big film composers, going all the way back to basically the Romantic period, and guys like Mendelssohn, and who started writing programmatic music. It's not a new thing, but it works. It absolutely
works so well. It works so well, and I find that when it's not there for film or series, it's kind of strange.
People need that subconscious cue to
know what to feel,
mentally prepare them for what's coming up. And I always find that interesting with a lot of AV projects. so much money will get chucked into the visual, the visual. And then the audio is like an afterthought. It's like, oh crap, yeah, we need some music or some sound for this. And what have we got left in the budget? It's like, yeah, but all of the emotion and all of the storytelling is in the music, because that'll tell you what to feel. Like, it doesn't matter what the visual is doing, because if the story doesn't support what you have, what your intention is.
Yeah, that's why if I compare like X-Men First Class by Henry Jackman to some of the new superhero stuff from now, it's like I can sing you the Magneto theme and you'll know the Magneto theme right away. But something new, but like I can't even tell you what a theme of anything is right now. So I don't think it's going to become a lost art, because there is so much importance of it, because there are so many legends like walking about. Like, I was so curious to see what a Christopher Nolan movie would look and sound like without Hans Zimmer. And honestly, I put Tenet up, hot take, and I want to put it out there for everybody. I put Tenet up there with Interstellar and Inception. It is up there with me, and up there with Dark Knight. Like, it's a four-way tie between those four. And that score that Ludwig Göransson did, it was like hearing alien music for me. It was like hearing new music I'd never heard my entire life. And it was so exciting, because I've justifiably so been out of the game for knowing what's happening in modern hip hop, modern rap, modern trap. And I was like, what are these sounds? And I was like, oh, is that a guitar? Is that an 8-string? And then I find out he's playing on Frederick Thorendal's signature 8-string guitar on the Tenet soundtrack. And a lot of the elements he's using are from his hip hop production, rap production. And it's so cool. I think that Göransson is going to quickly become one of the next legends, like Zimmer and Williams and all these guys. And his Oppenheimer score was incredible. But yeah, that was a side pivot. Anybody listen to this, and if you have not watched Tenet, watch it, because it's as good as the other best Nolan stuff.
Well, there's the second big recommendation after Martyr. There you go.
Yeah.
My favorite track, for what it's worth, of the three that you wrote, is Death, for sure. Like, the end of that track, the last minute and a half, where you're just going in on those screams, it gets me every time. Like,
thank you.
I know it's coming up, but my God, it's brutal.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've been really happy. Good. I wish I could record this again now, because I've unlocked even more in my voice lately. Like, I've got two very distinct singing and screaming styles, like the Ibaraki style, which I do for Ibaraki, but now I can take that in like super guttural death metal lows to black metal highs, everything between, the super clean singing operatic style, or the falsetto head voice style. Then there's the trivium stuff, which is like the mega pirate gruff singing, and then the normal screams that I've been doing forever, but they kind of pitch them up and down. I wanted for that track to just throw the kitchen sink at it and do all these different voices and make it sound like a bunch of different singers and screamers on one track, where it was me. That was a lot of fun.
Well, you did that.
Thanks.
Folks, if you haven't checked out the full EP yet, then you've got that to look forward to. It's right at the very end, Death. It's you can't follow that. Like,
that would came out really, really good. It definitely sounds like Death.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So, you're talking now about how you wish you could re-record that because you've got this new vocal style. So, you clearly have a focus still on continual development. Do you have a vocal coach, or is that something that you just work on your own? Or, what is it that drives you to keep pushing your ability forward?
So I screamed and sang wrong for however many years that was, from when I basically started singing and screaming the band Trivium, and then I blew my voice out in 2014. So it's 99 to 2014, I was doing it incorrectly. 2014, I started training with Ron Anderson. So 2014 to up until a couple years ago, Ron unfortunately passed away. So that's when I was training with him. And I still training with his method from 2014 to 2024. I still train with his method. And that's very specific strengthening of the head voice, learning to chamber and resonate in different parts of your head, effortless singing, making it very, very easy. And I thought that's the way I always had to do it, because I thought, like, hey, the way I do on the records, I still do the Trivium screams the way I've done it since I was like 12, 13 years old. Like, if you listen to The Court of the Dragon, listen to the Blue Demo, it's the exact same screaming style, but it would rip my voice apart. I'd be able to do a couple songs of it a day or a couple hours of a day, then it's done. So I was like, no, I got to do 5 to 7 shows a week. I have to be able to do this all the time. But it was one of the rehearsal days, and Paulo was like, hey, why don't you just try the record style just to do it at practice? I was like, well, I'm going to blow my voice out. He's like, oh, it's fine. It's Friday. Just go for it. So I did it. And even Alex was like, Alex was playing harder and faster and louder. He's like, I've never played with you while you did that before. And I asked Corey, I was like, well, what do you do? Because his screams are really powerful live. He's like, Corey's answer, I just do it. That's what he said. But he's like, I just pull the volume back a little bit. And then Paulo's like, yeah, this is much stronger. I asked my wife, asked my manager. I was like, hey, guys, do you feel like me doing the record styles be stronger for this tour? My wife actually was like, you kind of have to do the record one. So I was very scared, a lot of anxiety about doing that. But I started playing with it on stream, and that's why I'm so lucky I stream so much, because I stream so much because there's going to be people there with me as I practice to hone my craft for what I do for my main gig. That's Trivium. And one of my viewers, Freezing Cathedral, he's actually the one who taught me how to engineer, mix, and master purely from Twitch chat. I've learned how to mix and master from one of my amazing viewers from Twitch chat. I should have been learning from all the producers and mixers we worked with over the years, but I was in the moment recording. So I've since learned how to mix and master my own stuff and engineer my own stuff, which has been really cool. And obviously that's something that you got to keep working at as well. But I found a way to just harness that old sound. And it's the exact same, it's the exact same delivery as it was when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, the Ascendancy and Waves delivery, the Shogun delivery. But maybe it's from all the conditioning I did. Maybe it's from all the proper warm up, and maybe the way that Ron exercises work, it chambers at the exact right place. But now I'm doing it like the old way. The exact same thing. There's nothing different this time. Before I'd be like, yeah, it's a different technique, but it sounds similar. No, it's the exact same thing now. And I would argue to say that my grit singing is twice as good as it was in Shogun, which is kind of mind blowing because people love that record so much. So you can never learn too much. Like I'm trying to always become a better guitar player, always become a better singer, screamer, songwriter. I'm finally learning how to play piano. I should have learned that years ago, but now I'm finally understanding that and teach myself the Japanese instruments for the next Ibaraki. And life is meant to be filled with you learning things and exploring things and seeing what else you can do. And I never knew I could ever compose an orchestral piece that sounds like Baroque fanfare music or a chorale piece. And now I can. And that's really, really fun. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, I agree. One of life's great joys for me as well is, that constant desire to learn new things as a composer, as an instrumentalist, as a producer. As soon as you get complacent, you're going backwards. That's my opinion. As soon as you think I know enough, there's someone that's going to learn the next thing, and
Yes.
they'll be better, or they'll be more exciting, or they'll have an interesting way of approaching it. And I've talked to engineers. In fact, the last time I flew back to London, I live and work here in Spain, in this beautiful little town in my studio here, Mammoth Sound Studio. And the last time I flew back to London for a friend's wedding or something or other, there was a guy in the car hire place going to pick up the car, and we just got chatting. And I told him that I have my own recording studio in Spain, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I used to work in was it Air Studio or Abbey Road? One of the massive studios in London." And he's like, "Yeah, and I didn't keep up." He's like, when the computers came in, and people started learning Pro Tools, I was just like, "Yeah, I'll just let the kids learn the computer stuff. I'll just stick with tape. I'll be fine." And he's not fine now. Now he's hiring cars out. He seems perfectly happy, and nor is it for me to judge. But that's coming from somebody working at the peak of the music industry in London in the late 90s, who now is no longer in the industry because he didn't have the aspiration to stay, with the times. And that was just such a good lesson.
So many musicians that do the same. Bands when they first get signed, or maybe when they first start touring, or when they first start kind of cracking into mainstream, or they blow up, they just stop practicing. I've met so many of that. Bands younger than us, older than us. I remember we toured with a band that we were one of their favorite bands, and the guy was like asking me this question about guitar. I was like, you know what? I'll give you lessons every single day. I'll set it up tomorrow. So I had it set up. He's like, all right, we're gonna meet at noon. Text him at noon, not
Where are
there.
you?
An hour later, text him, nothing. Hours later, nothing. Finally, he shows up around 6. He's like, dude, I can't be fucked to practice on a show day. I was like, all right. And this dude was like maybe 15 years younger than me. I was like, all right, well, there's the drive right there. And that's very unfortunate. But yeah, you kind of see it all over. You have to always have the drive. That's where we're at. I think Trivium is now a better live band than we've ever been ever. I'm a better singer screamer than I've ever been ever. And it's just because we want this.
And do you think that complacency, I'll call it complacency for want of a better word, is seen because there's this conception or misconception about making it in the music industry, right? There's a certain threshold that artists look to get beyond, whether it's, numbers of streams or festival slots or, headline shows or whatever. And when they get to whatever they perceive to be their making it point, they're like, okay, I'm good now. I can just plateau and keep going.
Definitely.
Do you think that's an unhelpful misconception?
Oh, I mean, that's definitely there. I've seen that for the last, I've been in the band for 26 years. I've been seeing that for 26 years, of all across the board, all different levels. And, that makes me very thankful. I've always had a Marine father. He never let me rest on practice, never let me take days off. As tough as that was very important. I also feel like every band guy should be in jiu-jitsu because it humbles the hell out of you because you're going to fight someone who's half your size. They're going to strangle you and you're going to pass out. And I feel like everyone needs some humbling like that, especially musicians. I feel like all musicians should have to go roll with some tough jiu-jitsu guys.
They should all be beaten up by somebody half their size at some point.
Yes.
Just
yes.
to knock
and
them
then,
down a
then
peg or
someone
two.
3 times their size. Because when you do that kind of stuff, you have no ego. Like jiu-jitsu has taught me so much of there's no shortcutting. I wanted to quit for my first 3 years. I kept going for 3 years and I was terrible, losing every single day, miserable, in pain. Didn't start looking okay at it till 5 to 7 years in. Finally got kind of good 7, 8, 9 years in. And now here I am 12 years in and I've got my own thing fleshed out. But I'm always going to run into someone who's been training for 25 years or someone who's been training for 5 years who can smoke me 20-1. But I'm going to keep going back because that teaches humility. It crushes the ego and it makes you strong mentally and physically. And that's a big thing. I really feel like it won't happen. But I feel like that musicians like that with that complacency, or maybe they should just start jiu-jitsu right away, or something that makes them uncomfortable, something that's not easy. So it's important to stay in things that make you uncomfortable and things that don't make you feel good, while also doing things that make you feel good. Like if you need to have those, you need those balances. Like if you just feel good because like, hey, I'm signed, I made it, I've got a lot of Instagram followers, people are coming to see my band, I don't need to practice anymore, then you have lost the plot.
Yeah, it makes me think back to when I was in school and college and I played a lot of cricket, and the coach of our team in school, he was also an English literature teacher, and he'd plaster all these inspiring quotes around the changing room. And one that sticks with me is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I just, it comes back to me all the time. It's like, yeah, you can be, as naturally gifted as you like, but if you don't work hard, it'll get you nowhere. But the internet and the explosion of the internet and, everything being so accessible means that there is someone making 2 times as much, 3 times as much content. They might not be as talented as, some other guy online, but they're going to be seen because, they're working hard to market themselves.
Yep.
And
there's a lot of things to work at nowadays for sure. And I love that quote. And I will absolutely say I was not talented at anything I picked up in the first place. I was not a good guitar player from the get. I was not a good singer, not a good screamer from the get-go. Not good at guitar, not good at jiu-jitsu, not good at games, not good at yoga. I had to put time and time and time. I am a slow learner. It's hard for me to retain information at times. So I have to learn something 2 to 4 times as much as the average person, I feel. And that's why I do that much. That's why I'm always streaming, always practicing the craft, because I know if I take a couple weeks off, it's going to slide. I never take vocal rest. I never am off season. I talk to a lot of singers like, oh, I got to get back in shape for this tour. I never allow my voice to get off shape, which may or may not be the right way for everyone, but it's the right way for me.
Muscle memory, hey?
Yes.
Got to keep things locked into the system so that, there's never that need for a refreshing period. It's just,
And that way, if you are under that intense stress or you're in a moment like with our first download set where we're upgraded out of nowhere, we were all sick and partied out and 18 and stupid and should have been terrible, but because of the muscle memory and the time we put in, instinct clicked in and it worked. And I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this other stuff. I have to keep this muscle memory going. That's why I try to always stay in shape for the things that I need to be in shape for.
Yeah. There's another amazing quote by the legend Julie Andrews, I believe, who says, I hope I'm quoting her correctly, she says, amateurs practice until they can get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. And, and when you're going on tour, you need to not be thinking about, am I playing the right notes? Am I singing the right words? You need to be thinking about, am I looking good? Am I interacting with the crowd? The performance is just subconscious. Then you're thinking about your stagecraft and, reading the crowd and reading the room and interacting and
jiu-jitsu, yoga, shows, when you start thinking is when you're going to lose. It has to be so programmed into you that you're just living.
Yeah. Well, look, Matt, I know that we have a finite window in your very busy schedule. So is there anything else that you want to throw into the conversation at this stage? It's been really enlightening for me and I'm really grateful for your time.
Thanks so much.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Everybody buy your tickets to the Poison Ascendancy tour because that thing is going to sell out and it's going to be the biggest, best tour we've ever done.
I'm there twice. I'm coming in London and I'm coming in Madrid. So
hell yes.
Yeah,
passes on me. Make sure you remind me. Remind me a day or so before passes on me.
I will. I won't let you forget. I have already booked my flights to London, so I'm going to hold you to it.
Hell yeah, man.
Get your tickets to the tour and go stream this record, Cult of the Lamb, Hymns of the Unholy. It is all available now. You can get it on official vinyl as well. There are some sick t-shirts, artwork to go with it. So check all that stuff out. And yeah, Matt, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you so much.